What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Let's talk about it. And in this video, I want to talk about how the main media companies here in Ontario, Canada are refusing to share my story with the public. Okay? I'm talking about courtroom corruption, police brutality, and an unsolved murder in my family. And I'm going to get into those details in this video and share with everyone what these media companies don't want you to hear, right? So I just want to thank everyone who stopped by to watch this video. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to my channel, who's liked my videos, commented, share. I can't do this without you, and I appreciate you guys very much. And I really just want the masses, the whole country and beyond, to hear about these events in my life. This is my life story, and I want to share it with everyone in a factual and calm manner to the best of my ability. But I'm just still shocked what I'm going through, what I went through, and what I'm going to be continuing to go through. Right? So CBC and CTV more particularly, and I'll get into these other companies, refuse to share this police brutality case where I took a beating at Casino Rama on surveillance. Casino security guards lied. They said I bit them. I got detained. This young security guard, Hayden Kennedy, sat on my back for 10 minutes. I couldn't breathe. I know people before saying, oh, he's trying to be like George Floyd and stuff. But you know what? It was actually similar to that. You know, it had elements. And you get this police officer, Constable Evan Gorman, who, decides to put the shackles on put two handcuffs together, put on my feet, hog tie me, blindfold me, drag me out of Casino Rama. And the media doesn't want to talk about it. And this officer, he's got a history of doing this. This officer was charged with putting a child pretty much in a hospital, assaulting and injuring a child, and then he gets off on this assault charge. So it's like, why would the media not want to talk about that? I'm going to get into that, why I think they don't want to. Then you've got Canada's potentially most corrupted family court case in Canadian history. You got judges blocking out endorsements, blocking out transcripts, deleting endorsements. You got the trial judge writing on his endorsement, I called the applicant, I emailed her, I breached my temporary restraining order, I was not a tenant. The evidence and exhibits submitted show the opposite of what this judge put on paper and how badly that railroaded me moving forward. There's no accountability. Complaints don't work. There's this $200,000 court cost that's been submitted by this lawyer, Jon David Ekpenyong, which is just straight up fraud. This lawyer's committed perjury. He will not stop harassing me, sending me emails at all hours at night. You guys have seen some of the emails. I will be sharing more. This lawyer is psychotic. He's deranged. He's delusional. He's incompetent. He he gaslights so much. He's admitted to stalking me. He is now threatening me in emails. You get the Waterloo Region Police won't help me. Just recently had this Constable Ty Gardner from Halton Region Police says he's going to help me, goes MIA. He refuses to investigate this $160,000 fraudulent bill. And I thought the police were supposed to enforce the law. The Halton Region Police haven't. Honestly, I filed a complaint with Lika. I'll be getting into a whole video why complaints do not work. Waterloo Police Sergeant there refused to investigate that $10,000 home insurance fraudulent bill that my ex submitted, and she admits to paying $7,000 in family court costs, and then they asked for $160,000. This woman paid a $1,000 deductible, received $9,000 or $10,000, took that money, paid her lawyers $7,000 plus HST, and then she got $60,000 out of the court from a fraudulent bill. Now tell me, that alone, why wouldn't CBC and CTV News want to investigate why the police, the Crown Attorney, the Law Society, and these judges, all four collectively refuse to investigate and allow these people to get away with abusing the courts. Fraud, perjury, harassment, stalking, threatening me. That's all this lawyer Jon David Ekpenyong does. I just want to pay that fraudulent bill, but they won't even let me make payment. I was never married with this woman, had children, or lived with her. She withheld the police report that was on case lines that trial judge refused to look at and to take into accountability. Okay? These complaints do not work at all. I can tell you guys firsthand. Lika, the OPIRD, the Canadian Judicial Council. I'll do a whole video on the complaints I filed, and there is a pattern. They are broken, they are biased, and they are handled corruptly. How do you have complaints being handled against officers? How do you have complaints about officers with officers handling them? Judges complain against a judge, another judge, if it even gets to those screening officers, those biased and broken, corrupted screening officers at the Canadian Judicial Council, because when I do the video on the 3 complaints with these judges deleting endorsements, blocking out transcripts, providing contradictive and intentional misleading statements on endorsements, and these screening officers, they don't want to get this aired out, this dirty laundry. The Minister of Justice, I'll be getting into a whole video that refuses to talk to me about this corruption. And like I said, you got like this police brutality case that's now led into a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, right? And unfortunately, it's this unsolved murder, of my mother. My mother was gunned down in Barrie in October 14, 2005. Okay. Over the years, my family, my grandmother and I, we've talked to the news. And you know what? To be honest, I don't want them talking about my mother's story anymore. I really don't. They don't have the decency to reach out to me. My mother got gunned down at a residence she had never been to before. She was helping a coworker fix a car. And some kid decided to, because it was an opportunity to get away with it. If you guys read the story about April Dobson, this unsolved homicide, what all happened, it was an opportunity to do this. Am I convinced it's random? Not necessarily. And yeah, I've reached out to all these CBC News, CTV News, especially Barrie, Global News, Toronto Star, Toronto Sun, National Post, W5, and so many others. I have been fortunate with Aurelia Matters and Canada Cop Watch talking about this major police brutality case that nobody wants to talk about. And why wouldn't the media want this to get out to you guys? Why are they trying to silence me? I'm trying to figure that out. And we got to get into this, I spoke to Wendy Gillis, the Toronto Star. I spoke to Jason Miller. They both were interested in this police brutality case, and then they went MIA. Jen Blair over at CBC Go Public, she wouldn't air my story about this corrupted family court case, this court corruption, unless I won an appeal. And you got this Jon David Ekpenyong. He keeps flapping his gums about how I lost the appeal when I never even had one. We went before Justice Favreau, who accepted his materials 10 minutes before the Court of Appeal appearance when I had a motion for an extension of time. This lawyer's materials got accepted 10 minutes before, unsigned, uncommissioned, and I lost that appeal. And there was another fraudulent bill. I'll have to get into a whole video with my experience with the Court of Appeal and just how horribly it went from start to finish. There's this major police brutality case. Constable Evan Gorman assaulted, injured, and hospitalized me. Casino Rama security laid the boots to me on surveillance. They straight up lied. They committed perjury, and they said I bit them when I didn't. I had a forensic dentist on standby, which I still do, for the civil lawsuit. And we had to expose the truth. What they did to me was wrong, and there's no accountability. There's no accountability with what these judges did to me. There's no accountability with what this lawyer, Jon David Ekpenyong, has done and gotten away with. There was no accountability with what this police officer did to me. Got away beating a child. Got away, getting away, beating me. And there's no accountability with what happened to my mother. So enough is enough. I think it's in the public's best interest. I know it's in the public's best interest to hear about these stories. And how disappointed I am in these journalists and these news stations. You know, sorry, I also spoke to Jason Pierce of Fifth Estate, who was kind of interested in this court corruption case, and then he said he was busy. And then I spoke to Nicole King over at CTV News in Barrie for a few times, and they all collectively refused to talk about these stories. You know, Constable Gorman. And I just want to apologize. I know I'm going to be bouncing around to these stories, but this is just, you know, how I'm laying it out. And, you know, I'll try to keep it in order as best as I can. You know, when an officer hospitalizes victims, not once, but twice, you got a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. You know, what is it? Is it bad business for Casino Rama? Well, maybe their security guards shouldn't lie about events that never happened. Maybe their security guards and maybe Constable Gorman should not be using excessive force and lying about it and saying that I bit people and then hog tie me, blindfold me, friggin' drive my head into the concrete on surveillance, injure me during transportation, and nobody wants to talk about this? Right? You know, it's wild. It's mind-blowing, you know, what I'm going through. The problem I'm having with Constable Evan Gorman, and I've said this before, is that Constable Evan Gorman works for the Rama Police, an Indigenous police service. And I don't think any of the media wants to talk about an Indigenous police officer assaulting, injuring, and hospitalizing a white man while he's got detained. They've made all these allegations, these comments that were never made. You know, they falsely charged me, gave me 10 charges: assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, assault times 2, right? I've got uttering death threat times 3. I've got resisting arrest, and then they gave me trespassing, and they gave me intoxicating a public place. You know, I didn't do any of those things. Do you know I got the 2 provincial charges withdrawn? Do you know the hoops on fire that prosecutor made me jump through? The Crown's office, the provincial charges, they made my life a living hell. Okay? Those were charter right breaches. Okay? Those 8 criminal charges, those charges got stayed. You know, because of my 2 criminal lawyers, James Gilbert and Cameron Cotton O'Brien. Okay? These 2 lawyers are charter right specialists. You know, Constable Evan Gorman not only lied about events that never happened, but he breached 4 of my charter rights. Yeah, he breached 4 of them. And I'm going to be getting into a video about what happened with that trial or that hearing before that judge in Aurelia. And then when my charges got stayed on the 17th of April. So the problem I'm having with CBC News and CTV News and these other news is it's, like I said, Gorman's an Indigenous police officer. I don't think they want to talk about it because of the recent news we've heard. And I'm not going to take away anything that's happened. We've heard about these, the 1,900 unmarked graves. There's 4,000 documented student deaths in these schools, and that is absolutely horrible. What happened to those children? And it doesn't matter who is who, the background. That is absolutely horrible. What happened to those children and the Indigenous people. And you know what? It's not, and you know what? it's horrible. It's horrible. Like, they received over all these the wrongdoing of $43 billion a settlement, and they deserve it for what this government and what these public servants did to the indigenous people is absolutely horrible. Okay, and I don't agree with it in any way, but that is irrelevant. Okay, we're talking about a police officer who was charged in 2017 for assaulting, injuring, and hospitalizing an 11-year-old while visiting an elementary school. And then he's at it again December 22nd. December 10th, 2022. And what's interesting about my case, I wouldn't say interesting, what is that there's this connection in a way, there was that OPP officer, Greg Pierre Zella, and he was shot and killed, on duty in December of 2022. The media was all over it. They still are. This past April of 2025, the same month, my criminal charges were stayed. The assailants were charged. And it was, the person who shot him was an indigenous man, and that lady on the reserve, and they killed this officer. Do you see what is going on? What's happening to me? They refuse to talk about it, but when it's an officer or if it's a certain theme fitting to their narratives, they're all over it. Why wouldn't they talk to me? They're one-sided, this media, and there's all these corruption elements in my case. And you know how you expose corruption? By not staying silent, by going public, being factual, referencing documents, exhibits, court documents. This is what it comes down to. If I never was assaulted, injured, and hospitalized by the police brutality on camera, humiliated, injured, my elbow and left wrist are still trashed. And if this whole family court thing never happened, I wouldn't be doing this channel. I wouldn't be doing these videos. You've got judges lying. You've got complaint services protecting them. You've got a lawyer, this Jon David Ekpenyong, commits perjury, submits a fraudulent documents, fraudulent bills. He harasses me. He's threatening me. And now he's admitting to stalking me. Judges won't do anything. Law Society won't do anything. Kitchener courthouse, their crown attorneys, they refuse to do anything. The police refuse to do anything. And I've got all the evidence, plain as day, organized for them to investigate, but they won't. Why? Because that family court trial and what was said on that endorsement. All that court did was friggin' abuse me. They took me out of commission. This lawyer has my bank accounts still frozen to this day, and he plays nothing but games when it comes to trying to make payments to his bogus bill. He's racking up interest like it's Vegas. He's psychotic. He's unhinged. He won't leave me alone, and I just wanted to start making payments, and I want this lawyer to leave me alone. He serves me like 3 or 4 times, motion in contempt. He's trying to put me in jail. It's like, buddy, leave me the fuck alone. Stop harassing me, okay? Let me make payments. And this is what these courts did. The big part of this family court corruption case is these judges, and they're not being held accountable. And that's just the truth. You guys seen in the previous videos. I'll upload them in this video, and it's like, that's the problem, okay? Yeah, like I said, there's just, there's a lot going on, obviously, and I just want to get these stories out to the public, It's this, like I said, I keep seeing CTV News, CBC News. They're all over this officer who was shot and killed, which also is horrible, We need police, good police, who are going to keep this province under control. But when you got officers like Gorman abusing his powers, police brutality, no accountability, those are not good police officers. Like, what they did to me, I'm shocked. CBC News, CTV News, Toronto Star, Toronto Sun, even W5, even Rebel News. I'm surprised. I've reached out to them. I'm even willing to pay, But to be honest, at this point, I don't even want to talk to these media companies. I really don't. I'll just do what I'm doing. I'm going to talk to you guys. I'm going to make these videos. I'm going to be factual. Like I said, I have nothing to gain to mislead. I'm not going to bash as best as I can. But when you got public servants straight up, blatantly abusing their powers on our dime, we're talking with these people, millions of dollars annual salaries, who are screwing over people's lives like they did to mine. Okay? This story with this potentially Canada's most corrupted family court case in Canadian history. If I've got all the facts, why wouldn't they want to? These investigative journalists want to talk to me, right? Because I'm going to expose them all. I'm going to expose the corruption, and it's not going to be good business, right? Because they're going to be frowned upon, right? You got one judge who blocked out 2 pages of transcripts. One judge went behind my back, deleted an 8 or 10 page endorsement down to 1 page. When I ordered those transcripts, took 8 weeks to get them. Justice Gibson, I reached before he gave his decision, either with the restraining order or the court cost. I pointed out that restraining order was never signed. And contrary to Rule 14 sub Rule 4 in the family law, all documents must be signed or they're invalid. I got dragged through family court for 3 years on a restraining order application, never signed, with a woman I was never married with, never had children with, never lived with. Withheld the police report for 2 years that she wrote, that she put on case lines, admitting to the living arrangements. I was a tenant. I was paying rent. She applied to the landlord-tenant board for an eviction application. 0 police history, 0 domestic violence. I'm in family court on a restraining order, full of lies and perjury. And then you get Kitchener's top judge entertaining a fraudulent bill of $160,000, orders me to pay $60,000 3 days after my birthday, my 40th birthday. You got witnesses, they got caught lying at this family court matter. You got that $160,000 fraudulent bill. Like I said, the police report, the living situation, what I was ordered. This psychopath lawyer, Jon David Ekpenyong, starts a garnishment 72 days after this court order without any communications. Hey, Mr. Dobson, when are you going to start making payments? This is the email. Nothing. Because he's a coward and he's taken this case on personally. He's trying to muzzle me. And to be honest, I'll never stop talking about this stuff. He wants to put me in jail. He's trying to get a judge run up to Kitchener to get a judge to put a ban to stop talking about these events that happened in my life. How these people got away with abuse in the courts. I lost a garnishment dispute before Justice Tweedy, same judge who blocked out nearly 2 pages of transcripts, who I think is covering up a major misconduct, who the Canadian Judicial Council refuses to investigate. And why wouldn't? You know what I mean? The corruption I am dealing with is sickening. I'll tell you right now, most people, if not all people, going through what I am going through, what I went through, would have folded a long time ago. Okay? We're in June right now, 2025. This is Men's Mental Health Month. The suicide rate is so high. I wonder how many of them are related to this family court getting railroaded. If this happened to me, imagine how many other stories out there, unheard stories of men who had children, who were married, who lived together, and he got railroaded. I had absolutely no business ever being in family court, let alone a trial. The trial schedule endorsement form was never even filed. That's a Rule 17, Sub-Rule 11. That form must be filled out, served, and filed by parties, not a judge, like Justice Tweedy did, and it wasn't even filed by Jon David Ekpenyong. That's why I keep saying in these videos, Jon David Ekpenyong, he needs to be investigated. But the Law Society is protecting him. You got that senior forensic accountant, sat on a complaint 3 years, already cashed in, and didn't even talk about this fraudulent bill. Didn't even talk about how Jon David Ekpenyong was caught red-handed lying to 7 judges. When he got caught lying to Deputy Familia, February 2024, oh, I served Mr. Dobson. He refused to show up. You guys, if you've seen the previous videos, you would have seen that, okay? You know, I reached out to the Canadian Judicial Council, the Attorney General. They refused to properly and fairly address these concerns. This is a major corruption allegation that I have all the evidence for, and they're trying to silence me, you know. And it's frustrating to say the least. You know, this whole family court bullshit situation, this whole police brutality situation. Again, I would not be making these videos if these things had happened to me and how there's no accountability. You think I want to be making these videos? You know, I don't. I'm just trying to stay sane. I'm using this channel as like a video diary, and I'm just getting this stuff off my chest. I'm getting the truth off my chest, because if something happens to me, you know, at least I was able to get most of this stuff off. I got so much stuff to dive into still, and you know, this whole third story here, this you know, this unsolved murder has been extremely difficult. You know, 20 years. You know, I'm going to have to get into a whole video of my upbringing, my dad's side of the family. You know, my dad was interviewed by the Barrie police, and he never even checked up on me. I never even grew up with my dad. He moved on with his life, started a new family, moved out to Kitchener, and he never looked back. And that's just another wild story about my dad's side of the family, all my uncles, my grandpa, and the problem, just how broken my family is, and how, I don't know, with the men, I don't know what's up with this, all these children dispersed, and again, that's going to be a whole video. But I think it's just, I'm shocked, you know. My mom gets killed. My dad gets interviewed, doesn't even call me. Took me 7 years to get in contact with that man, and that's only because my grandmother was persistent. And what kind of father would do that to his child? What kind of, I still don't get that. You know, men who give up on their children. I know sometimes there's shitty circumstances, you know, this family court bullshit, you know, judges ruining men's lives. You know, we hear it happen too often. It happened to me. So I can't blame my dad entirely, but I'm really disappointed in him, to say the least, when he found out what happened to my mother, and he never checked up on me. You know, CTV News, we've talking to them, my grandma especially, myself, a couple times over the years, my grandma more so. But I'm not happy how the Barrie police have handled the case. I've heard a lot of rumors. I've heard that the individual might have died of a heroin overdose. Again, I'll be doing a whole video, on what I know and what I think would happen. You know, this year marks 20 years. October 14th, 2025, when this happened. You know, I remember being in Brampton with my girlfriend at the time, and getting woken up at 5 o'clock in the morning from my grandparents, my ex's dad, and he broke the news to me. And I honestly, I was shocked. And I still can't believe it happened. It's a horrific crime. The fact that the crime, it's unsolved, it's difficult. You know, yeah, you know, it's just, but the whole thing is CTV News, you know, they, especially with this story, CBC News, they refuse to talk to me. And why would you refuse to want to talk to the son? And, you know, I think it's because I've tried to reach out to them with this police brutality case, with this corrupted family court case, other cases too. to the Kitchener courthouse. These, you know, yeah. Basically, what happened to my mother was just extremely heavy. It's hard just to still understand it. You got to wake up every day, put a smile on your face. I'm not one of these people out there that's got inheritance coming, that's inherited inheritance. I get zero help. You guys see on this wall some of the things I've accomplished. I finished high school. I got my apprenticeship here. I did my apprenticeship. I went to Humber College. No, that's my license, my electrician license, my 309A, and this is Humber. I've completed all these things on my own. No help. But the help I did get was from my grandmother and my mother. But, it's been 20 years since she's passed. And, and then you got this whole friggin' cancer Jon David Ekpenyong who got away with that fraudulent bill. He's got my bank accounts frozen since September. I had to walk away from that $22,000 a month job before taxes and deductions. I just want to make payments. That psychopath refuses to let me make payments, and it's because these judges have created two monsters. And I want the public to know what is happening in my life. Yeah, not happy about the support I'm receiving from my father's side of the family. It's a joke, to be honest. I don't get it. I've spoken to CTV News producer Nicole King, and then there's Kim Phillips, and I really would like the two of them and the rest of CTV News. If you don't have the decency to talk to me about my mother's case, then please stop talking about her. Okay? I've reached out to the two of them. They refuse to respond. Okay? I've left voicemails with their newsroom. They're not communicating. Not impressed with the Barrie police. It's been a revolving door with all the detectives. They don't call to give updates. I heard the rumors about these two individuals. These two, one of them passed away from an overdose, I heard. I'm not too sure exactly the details. And there's another one who's a person of interest. And everyone seems to hear about this story. I think anyone I crossed paths with from 2000 and 2003 in Barrie, I'm just, not, to be honest, I'm not really impressed how the people that I spent my time with then, things have turned out. You think about this situation. Someone like, somebody who's I think I'm a pretty decent human, I'm a decent human being. You don't check up on that person. You don't check up how they're doing. It is a serious event. And these so-called friends and this so-called family, they don't even have the decency to check up on me. But here, I've given the shirt off my back to so many people. And I have seen so much different human behavior and just how selfish we can be and how ignorant humans can be. It's it's just shocking. When I'm looking at this here, preparing for this video, try to do job points and straight up, it's they've let me down, my family's let me down. I've had to deal with this pretty much on my own with the help of my grandmother, and it's been tough to say the least. Okay? And why would the men of my family, why would my so-called friends, why would they let me struggle alone? This is a major event. My family's broken up. To be honest, most of the men at some point, I don't know what's going on. The kids weren't with them all the time, and especially like me, straight up, I feel like my dad abandoned me, left me behind. He went on disability, put everything in his wife's name, and I got scraps growing up, and Again, it's he had to go to family court with my mom, and I think they railroaded him too. And it's kind of that could be the reason. I don't know all the details. I just don't know. I can't see myself having children and just being like, take care of them, walking away. I just don't get it. I don't understand how men can give up on their kids. And it happens too much in my family with most, if not all, the men. And I don't want to say all of them, but most of them. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty violent what happened to my mom. She got killed to helping a coworker. She was a part-time driver at Swiss Chalet. Rumors are they were selling drugs out of there, I heard. That's some of the rumors. She was sitting on a porch having leftover Thanksgiving dinner. And she got killed for helping a friend. And, this friggin' Jon David Ekpenyong, this psychopath won't leave me alone. I've had to beg and plead a judge, Justice Ian Smith, on March 21st, 2025, over this retarded fictitious litigant application because I have two small claim matters. This could hurt my lawsuit. Labeling me that. I brought this to this lawyer's attention. I said, hey, I will drop everything. He will not let me do it. They don't want the money. They're fucking what they're doing. This court order, these amount of court costs they got, the interest that's accumulated, $3,000 in 1 year, refusing to accept payment plan. This lawyer needs to have his license removed completely. Okay? But now they have the impression, Jon David Ekpenyong and his client, an ex-girlfriend who is very much older than me in age, mid-60s, I have a permanent restraining order against, have got the impression they can get away with abusing the courts. Okay? I pretty much had to bring up to that judge about my mom's case and how the police are, making progress. And what? If there's if someone gets caught one day, I'm not going to be able to sue them if there's a chance because of this psychotic lawyer, Jon David Ekpenyong, refuses to leave me alone. He, before that fictitious litigant, he served me a motion of contempt for family court for a bunch of bullshit that I'm going to be doing a full video on for shit that never happened. I have never seen so much gaslighting in my life. Okay? Like I said, this lawyer doesn't sign documents. He never signed that document that day. This lawyer knows my mother's birthday is April 1st. What does this lawyer do? Serves me on April 1st. Again, motion of contempt in family court. Again, not signed. Okay? The same bullshit documents. Okay? It gets rejected. What does he do again? Days before Mother's Day, serves me again. This lawyer seems like he's taking pleasure in doing these things to me. This has got to be Canada's most corrupted lawyer who needs to be addressed for what he's done. And the abuse that I continue to take from this lawyer is not right. And how the Waterloo police refuse to investigate, how the Waterloo, the Halton Region Police, Tyrone Garner, refuses to investigate, which I'm going to be doing a full video on, dealing with the Halton Region Police. And these are two perfect examples why the public has major trust issues with the police. You've got officers who do not want to enforce the law, right? I've made it so easy on them about this fraudulent bill, which is a major crime. And this officer's like, oh, I'm going to have to get a warrant for that. Okay, that's your job. Do it. Why are you protecting him? You know what they say? Oh, it's a civil matter. It's not a civil matter anymore when this lawyer's admitted to stalking me for no good reason. He's harassing me. He's threatening me now. I've got an audio recording that's on this page. This lawyer is admitting to submitting a fraudulent bill. Yet none of these people want to do anything. The Kitchener, Waterloo, Crown's office. Oh yeah, Justice of the Peace, Fox, Justice of the Peace, Fox accepted perjury and fraud against Ekpenyong, and then you get up in front of that one lawyer there. Oh, we're going to stay the charges. No wonder the public doesn't trust these public servants. They are abusing their paychecks that we are fronting the bill. And that's just the honest truth. Okay? So it's like, yeah, this is what it comes down to. I want to get these things off of my chest. And I have started this channel to speak the truth. You shouldn't be surprised about anything. And if you are, you're opposing me. Because everything I speak about is factual in these videos. I got nothing to gain to mislead anybody. I've got an unsolved murder in my family it's marking 20 years that the media doesn't want to talk about, especially to me. You've got this major police brutality case with this Indigenous police officer who's at it again. This time, assaulting, injuring, and hospitalizing me. He's done it before. He hasn't lost his job. He hasn't been reprimanded, not that I know of. Their police board was useless. The chief refused to comment on when I got seriously injured during transportation. Guy driving like a friggin' maniac, slamming on the brakes. I'm freaking flying around in the backseat, end up getting a second head injury. And the CBC News, CTV News, these journalists, Fifth Estate, W5, there's news, they don't want to talk about it. You guys don't want to talk about Canada's most corrupted family court case in Canadian history? Do you guys not agree that it's in the public's best interest that I share this information? Because I think it is. I think it is, enough is enough. What they did to me, all these people collectively work together, knowingly or not knowingly. You railroaded one of the hardest working people that's ever been before most of you. And you're going to take me out of action. You're going to let this lawyer, this psychotic lawyer, probably got his license out of a cereal box. Because we need to know, as the public and the law societies protecting them, the Canadian Judicial Council's protecting the judges, okay? The Crown Attorney is protecting this lawyer. It's not right. And it's time to talk about it. So, it's not easy ever talking about these things, but I got to get these things off my chest. And because there's so much more to talk about. And I just want to thank everyone that's watched this video up until this point. And if you guys haven't already, if you like this content, if you appreciate me sharing these events in my life, please subscribe to my channel. Let's talk about it. And you know what? Let's talk about it. Everything. We need to talk about so many topics. We need to talk about what Trudeau did to this country. This whole vaccine situation, the immigration, the inflation, the real estate. There's so much stuff going on that we need to talk about. We need to talk about men's health. We need to talk about the problem that's happening in these courts, and how there's no accountability, right? I need to spread awareness about what happened to my mom. I need the public to know. We need answers. It's a horrible thing. It's bad enough what happened to her, but it's just as bad, if not knowing what happened. And, it's just, I'm getting, the shit that I'm dealing with is, like I said, it would break most people. I'm educated. I'm involved in 7 charities helping a women's shelter, the OSPCA. That women's shelter is in Halton. It's the Women's Place. Toronto Accessibility, the Disability Sports League for disability kids. United Way, Operation Smile, Erie Wildlife out in Windsor. There's other ones too. I know I'm missing it, but I just want to help my community. And these judges, the police, this lawyer, okay, this unsolved homicide in my family, they're just making it more difficult for me. My life's already difficult enough. And then you guys, these people are going to do this to me. I'm very disappointed in CBC News. I'm very disappointed in CTV News. I don't want to even talk to them at this point. These newspapers, Toronto Sun, Toronto Star, these investigative reporters, Fifth Estate, W5, National Post, like, why wouldn't you want to talk to someone who's doing this much in this community, who's achieved a little bit? I'm trying to do the right thing, but if I'm going to be silenced, it's who's in their back pockets? Why wouldn't you want to get this out? Because it's going to really shake up a lot of stuff, and they don't want that, right? They just want me to keep my mouth closed and keep taking beatings from this lawyer, from these public servants, and I'm frustrated, and I'm going to leave the video at that. Like I said, I got so much more stuff I want to talk about. It's never easy doing these videos, especially this one. I apologize. I'm all over the place. I'm thinking about everything I've got prepared. This what I was going to talk about in a chronological order. I'm all over the place. But it's bullshit what happened to my mother. It's bullshit what this family court did to me. It's bullshit what this child-beating police officer did to me. And, I just want to work. I want to pay this fraudulent bill. I want to be able to help out these charities, and these people collectively are making it almost impossible for me to continue doing the things I need to do and what I like to do. And, so thank you guys for watching. I'm going to stop the video there. This has been another video from Let's Talk About It, and I am very disappointed in the main media for trying to silence me. These are stories that the public, I think, need to hear and want to hear. And why would you want to silence someone who has gone through what I've gone through and has all this evidence and supporting documents to back up what I'm saying is the truth? So thank you guys for watching.